I'd like to preface this video by saying that some of y'all are about to be pretty mad at me. So, first things first. Every dog in the neighborhood right now is barking, and it sounds like I live in a dog kennel, and that is not the truth. So, if you hear dogs barking, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. Right on cue. They're dogs. There's nothing I can do. Maybe the music in the background will cover them up. So today's video is going to be a topic that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I have this long list of ideas that I've always wanted to do for this YouTube channel, and I just have not been the best at making my content. I have had a struggle finding the time, finding the comfort of hearing my own voice back on video, finding the space to do it. I've had a lot of personal issues going on, and I think I'm finally in a good place where I can hop on here and start talking about film. That's what I want to do so badly. That is where my future lies, somewhere in the film industry. I just don't know where. Maybe this is it, who knows. Today I want to get one of those ideas out there and talk about my list of 10 films that are guilty pleasures for me. And maybe guilty pleasures for you, who knows. Maybe you are one of those people who makes me feel guilty for liking it. Maybe you're someone who secretly loves this movie and I can make you feel more comfortable letting the world know that you are obsessed with this film and that you don't care what they think about it. So today I'm just gonna work my way down my list. I have 10 films on the list, and I'm going to start with the one that has the highest Rotten Tomatoes score and work my way down to the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score. We do get down to the single digits, so this should be quite interesting because even in the single digits, I love the movies that are down there. Okay, let's get right into it. We'll start with number 10. So at a 74%, which is higher than I expected it to be, is Ghostbusters 2016. Now, this movie is one that I have defended quite a bit online. And if you're someone who hates the movie, I genuinely want to know if you went into the film knowing you were going to hate it, or if you went into it with like an open mind and expecting nothing, just kind of no expectations. I went in with no expectations, and personally, I'm not a big fan of the original Ghostbusters films, so maybe that helps. But I find Ghostbusters 2016 extremely funny, like so funny. I love the movie. I've showed it to so many people. I've watched it. I watch it every Halloween. And sometimes not on Halloween, sometimes just a random day of the year, because it makes me laugh a lot. I think that the comedians they have are very funny. The all-female cast is a good idea. I know that can be political for some people, but honestly, screw you. Like, if you can't handle an all-female Ghostbusters team, then like, you have much bigger issues to worry about. It's a really good movie, and if you don't like the writing, that's one thing. I like the jokes. Maybe they're just more tailored to me. I don't like Adam Sandler jokes, so maybe this is more my style. I just like it. I think that it's really funny. I think that it's really enjoyable. I don't think that it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's like amazing, but I do fight for this film, and if you want to go to war about it, let's go to war about it, because Bill Murray was never that funny in the originals. Okay, next movie. So at a 51%, which is a lot higher than I expected it to be, is Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, I don't know if it's just because I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but from what I understand, everyone hates this movie. So I don't know how it has such a high score. Even back when it came out, I remember hearing bad things about it. I think that out of all the Spider-Man costumes, Amazing Spider-Man 2 has the best costume. I think it has the best sound design. I think some of the music in that movie is amazing. I do think the villains could be better, but maybe we'll get the better version of Electro in Far From Home, which is coming up in just a few months, honestly. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I think, as I said already, this costume is the absolute best. Some of the best shots of Spider-Man flying are from this movie. And yeah, there's not much more you can ask for. I mean, people said that they threw too many villains in there, and I will say, yes, they did. Even like having Rhino at the end is just like, why? And then there's also the spoiler, I don't know how you wouldn't know this already, but there's the fact that they kill off Emma Stone's character. And I think they were just setting up for Peter to have like another emotional arc and to meet Mary Jane later on, but we didn't even get to finish it because it went on to Spider-Man Homecoming, and that's a whole separate rant, but Tom Holland is not as good a Spider-Man as Andrew Garfield is, and that's the kind of thing that is going to make you guys mad, and that is why I have this here. I'm ready for the hate. bring it, because Tom Holland is not as good as Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I've repeated myself like 10 times, I'm not going to say it again. I'm just going to move on to the next movie because this is going to get me in some trouble. Number 8 on my list is going to be the Fantastic Four film from 2005. I genuinely love this movie. As a kid, other than Spider-Man, this is what got me into superhero films. I used to play the soundtrack constantly. I had the little stretchy Mr. Fantastic.
Super Stretch Mr. Fantastic can stretch up to 3 times his size and go to any length to defeat the evil Dr. Doom. Let's go for a spin, Doom.
And then I think he ripped, because I ripped mine on accident somehow and he ended up in the trash. But anyways, that's a total side note. This movie makes me feel very nostalgic, and I think to this day that is a very, very good cast for the Fantastic Four. Better than the 2015 version had. This cast is perfect. Aside from the fact that Chris Evans was actually, I just had this idea, but since all these characters are apparently returning in Multiverse of Madness, they're gonna have like all these characters crossing over. Why don't we bring back this cast and let Chris Evans be the Human Torch in this other universe? That'd be really cool, right? Like, this cast is really good, and I just think they deserve better. The sequel was not as good, but they deserve a little respect because, honestly, they really killed it back then, and I wasn't the only one on the hype train at the time. It has a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, so, like, that's ridiculously low. I don't know how that even happened, but I feel like back then that score must have been higher, because I think all of my friends were on the hype train for that movie, so you guys need to put some more respect on its name. Number 7 on my list is one that I don't really know if it's that widely hated, but it came in at a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it must be the Smurfs movie, the live action one. I love this movie. As a kid, when in like middle school, when this came out, I was obsessed with it. I thought it was so funny. I bought the DVD immediately, and well, once it was available, and I watched it on repeat. I bought some merchandise. I had a bunch of stickers. I was obsessed with it. It's very good. I don't understand. I don't understand why the score is so low. I feel like most of us like it, but I guess I could be wrong. This could be used as a place to just talk about all of those films that fit into this category, like Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, Looney Tunes Back in Action, you know, all of those movies. It's one of my guilty pleasure genres, for sure. I should have made a video about that, to be honest. I like my comfort films, honestly. And the Smurfs is definitely one of them. I've seen this one many times. I collected all the little McDonald's toys, you know.
From the new movie, The Smurfs, rated PG, comes the Smurfiest Happy Meal ever. You can get a Smurf of your very own in your McDonald's Happy Meal.
I love this movie. Like I said, I didn't know the score was so low until I looked it up. So if you guys hate this movie, feel free to tell me about it. But I think we all like it, right? Number 6 is kind of a placeholder to talk about another genre of films. Medea's Witness Protection Program. I love this movie. It comes in at 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, but this is kind of a place to talk about like Medea's Witness Protection, Medea's Big Happy Family, Medea goes to jail. It's not necessarily my place to talk about the black stereotypes that play into those movies, because I know very much that that is what Tyler Perry is doing. He's very much playing into stereotypes to get laughs, and in a way, yes, that is a bad thing, but also as a viewer, it can be funny. Not the black stereotypes, just the comedy that he creates. And I understand there's problematic tendencies within the comedy, but that is a discussion that is not for me to have, because I am not knowledgeable enough to, you know, break those stereotypes down. I mean, I can on my own, but I'm not knowledgeable to be discussing it publicly. So I'm just going to discuss the film itself and the fact that I think that the comedy is very well done. There's a joke that Medea makes about being like the forgotten Jackson sibling, and that is, I think about that joke probably on a daily basis. I love this movie. I think that it is so funny. It's another one of those movies that if I need something to watch, if I need a good laugh, I turn it on, I ask all my friends, like, have you ever seen this movie? And if they say no, that's our plans for the night. Like, we're gonna watch Medea's Witness Protection. It's very, very funny. I really enjoy it. Most of the Medea movies are at least have a few scenes that are just like absolutely like have me in tears laughing, and that is embarrassing to admit sometimes, and usually I do get a bad look when I say that, so that's something that I am putting out there into the universe right now. Number 5, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. But listen, I'm not going to defend it and say it's a good movie. I'm going to defend it and say I'm happy that it exists. I wish a different studio had gotten this film because Leah Michelle's a really good Dorothy casting, Martin Short's a really good cast for the villain, a lot of the voice actors did a really good job, but the plot is weak. What really thrives is really good animation. Well, that's about it, isn't it? The really good animation. Just with me personally, my story with this movie is that I went and watched it in theaters with my grandma. And when I was a child, to this day, I have been obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, like absolutely obsessed. And as a kid, she introduced me to it and we talked about it all the time. This is a little thing I made with her, actually, if you can see that up there in this corner. And we went to the movies together maybe 3 times in her life. And this was one of the movies we went to see. And she did not like it. She genuinely did not like this movie. But I walked out and I was like, that was pretty good. And she was like, oh, I don't know. But I liked it a lot. And to this day, it's one of those movies that I turn it on. Like if I'm laying on the couch and I want to watch something and I don't want to pay close attention, I turn this movie on. I think it just ties into the fact that I love the land of Oz. I love the characters of Oz. A lot of the designs in this movie are really pretty to look at. I keep saying the same thing. It's pretty to look at. This one comes in at a 16%, and it doesn't deserve a 16, but it does deserve a low score. Number 4, Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. So that is the 6th one, that's the last one. This one has a 14%, and I know why. It's because people don't like, this is the only movie where you see the haunted stuff, you see the ghosts. And that was the selling point, and that was what made people mad about it. I would like to kind of use this as a moment to defend the whole franchise because everyone really liked the first movie or two, maybe even the third, I don't remember. But then there was just a hate train after that, and to be fair, 4 is really bad. But it's not awful. I've seen worse scary movies. I think at this point it got a 14% because people were just done with this franchise, and I think it's supposed to be having a 7th entry coming soon, so I'm excited about that because it could clear up the hate that this got, because I think the ending also had a lot to do with the hate because it is a little corny. But I genuinely got scared by this movie, and I genuinely think it's really good. It's actually one of my favorites in the franchise. I like the fact that you can see the ghosts. I am not sure why that was such a problem for some people, but I can see that it does go completely against what the franchise has always been about. So people just didn't want to see anything new from the franchise. I guess they just wanted more of the same. So yeah, I get that. But personally, I really like this movie. My 3rd film would be my number 1 pick, honestly, to defend if it was up to me, but it does not have the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score. At a 14%, I am here to defend and represent the Haunted Mansion film starring Eddie Murphy. What do you have against this movie? Why do people hate on this movie so much? I actually don't get it. We give so much love to Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, we don't want to talk about the Country Bears, do we? But people talk bad about this movie, and I think it is so good. It is my most watched movie on this list for sure. Well, maybe not. We'll get to that in just a minute. Ever since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with it. It has some moments that are genuinely scary for kids. Even a little scary now. The crypt area with the skeletons is pretty creepy. You get so many of the classic Haunted Mansion ride moments. And as someone who's obsessed with the parks, the Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride of all time, I love seeing like Madame Leota or the Singing Heads. I love seeing all that stuff in a movie. It's good. I would love a remake. I would love if they did a serious version. But what we have right now is so good. I think that everyone should just genuinely go give it a rewatch because I think you guys are not seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. It's a really good movie. A 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would like to personally have a meeting just to talk with everyone who gave it a Rotten Tomato. Just to talk. Let's just have a chat because you're wrong. You're just wrong.
Damn you, Lord.
I don't like the disrespect that it gets. It actually is one of the ones I defend the most. This movie deserves love. It deserves respect. And I'm here to defend it. So fight with somebody, fight with your mom about it because I'm not the one to listen to Haunted Mansion slander. Not on this channel. No ma'am. So my top 2 are interesting. Number 2 is Fantastic.
Say that again?
AKA Fantastic Four from 2015. This one is exhausting to defend because so many people just hate on it. This movie, the biggest problem is that it needs a sequel. Like, it's one of those films that sets up a sequel instead of trying to just be a good film on its own. There's some really interesting stuff about like the government trying to like control them and use them for like war and stuff like that. That's very interesting. It's a much more serious take. I understand the issues. It's a lot of studio involvement where they should have just left it alone. But this movie gets a lot of shit, and I genuinely think it's actually got a lot of potential. It just has some corny moments, of course. I understand why it has such a low score. It has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I understand why the score is low. I just think it is unfairly hated. I think that it's a solid, like if we're ranking it out of 10 stars, it's like a solid 5. It's not the 2 stars that everyone thinks that it is. So if you haven't seen it, go give it a chance, and if you have seen it, give it another chance. It's good if you like comic book movies. If you aren't just in it for the jokes, the movie has a lot of interesting moments, a lot of interesting ideas about the characters, and it has that hallway scene with Dr. Doom that is like amazing. We all love hallway scenes right now, so that's one of the best ones. Go back and give it a rewatch and just give it another try. I promise you, it's probably better than you think it is. Okay, my number 1 on my list is a movie that I'm very open about loving, and I just didn't know the Rotten Tomatoes score was this low. I know everyone hates it. It's at a 9%, just like Fantastic. And that is
The Cat in the Hat!
The Cat in the Hat is one of these movies that I think is actually a perfect film for the time period that it came out in. I think that it has all of the jokes that it needs to have. It has all of the serious moments that it needs to have. I think it has actually jokes that are ahead of its time. There are jokes that I hear now that I'm like, that is even funnier now than it was when I was a kid. And then there are jokes that are bad, of course, but every movie has that. At the time, I can understand why it was so appalling, because everyone in, I think it came out in 2003, 2005, somewhere like that. At that time, everyone did not fully understand how campy the early 2000s were. Like, I think that that was just our normal. But looking back, God, I mean, that was like one of the campiest time periods that I've in a long time. The most popular films were like Mean Girls and Legally Blonde and Freaky Friday and all that stuff. It's all camp. And The Cat in the Hat is Dr. Seuss, but make it camp. That's exactly what it is. And I know that he looks ridiculous. He looks a little scary. I know that the jokes are like outlandish and sometimes subliminally bad, like naughty jokes. But those just make the film better. I'll never forget when I got old enough to realize that basically the car the cat brings out, the name of it is an acronym for SLOW. And then he's like, well, we used to call it the Super Hydraulic Instantaneous Transporter. And yes, I have that memorized because I love this movie. And Conrad's like, but doesn't that spell? And then the cat's like, oh, shh, don't, like, don't say that. The jokes are so good, and that's like a stupid joke, but why? I don't understand why everyone hates it. Like, you guys let Adam Sandler movies pass, and I'm bringing him back up because you guys let Adam Sandler movies pass, but we don't let The Cat in the Hat pass, and that is just not fair to me. The Cat in the Hat is so much funnier. It is actually like intellectual comedy. At the end, whenever they reference like, you mean like at Universal Studios.
You mean like at Universal Studios? Cha-ching.
It's so good. It's so well done. I've literally fought for this movie so many times, and I've had so many arguments about the fact this movie's actually good, and then I tell people that I like this movie, and they're just like, oh, yeah. No, yeah, you should be saying, oh my god, what an amazing film. Me too. We both agreed this movie is so good. I think that everyone needs to give this movie another chance, because if you like The Grinch, I'm not saying this is as good as The Grinch. I think The Grinch is probably a little bit better of a film, but this is funnier than The Grinch. And I hate that this is what got the film rights, the live action film rights for Dr. Seuss taken away, because I would have loved to see what they did next. Honestly, it could have been really bad. But can you imagine if they did like a live action version of Horton Hears a Who? I can't even imagine. It probably would have been pretty bad. I'm glad that it ended up at #1 because yes, I love the Haunted Mansion, but the Cat in the Hat gets more disrespect than the Haunted Mansion does. And I think it is time that we, as a nation, come together, and if we can't unite on politics, let's unite on the fact that the Cat in the Hat is truly a cinematic masterpiece. And I'm not saying that to be funny, I'm saying that because I genuinely mean that this movie is deserving of being recognized. Okay, and that brings me to the end of the video. I know that a lot of you probably disagree with me, but I know that some of you out there agree with me on some of these movies. I've seen a few people on Twitter talk about like liking some of these films, and then I'm like, oh, are we gonna have a moment where we get to actually like recognize this movie for how good it is? And then it just kind of fades away. To me, all of these films deserve more recognition because they're my guilty pleasures, but I can understand if there's a few of them you dislike. The only ones you're not allowed to say bad things about are The Haunted Mansion and Cat in the Hat. I am tired of the slander. I think that it is time that we all unite, we hold hands, and we say that those movies are good movies and we've been wrong all this time. It's okay to say you're wrong. It's okay. It's okay to say that you have learned. That brings me to the end of this video. If you have a few of these movies that you think are amazing, tell me in the comments. If you have some guilty pleasures that I did not mention, leave them in the comments. I know a lot of people say that Mamma Mia is a guilty pleasure, and I think that movie is garbage. Mama, I think it's garbage, but if you like it, feel free. That's what this whole conversation is about. Talk about it down below. Talk about it to me on Twitter, specifically Twitter, because I really like using that platform. And I really, really, really hope that I can keep up this pace on making some new YouTube videos, because that is my goal for 2021. I want to be making the film content that I'm actually interested in making, and I'm just trying to get myself closer. I want to start doing some movie reviews, some trailer reactions, some top 10s, you know, some rankings. I've done a few of these things already, but I just want to get back in the swing of it. I want this to be something that I can do often. Yeah, so let me know what you think about my list down below. I don't want to hear any slander for the Haunted Mansion or the Cat in the Hat. If you do, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Just kidding, I don't pray. But if I did, they would be with you. My thoughts will be with you about how angry I am. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will probably be back soon with some new content. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!